Hey everyone, Josh here. So today we're working at my wife's CJAA again. So when we bought the car 2 years ago, she had one request, and that was any modifications that I did, it had to be for better fuel mileage and better reliability. So I've got a whole playlist on basically spending the summer doing that. So today we're installing a high output alternator so that her car always starts in the winter time.
Gosh, I'm not an idiot. I know that's a turbo. It's supposed to be for Eli's education fund.
That was good.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so she's not exactly wrong. It's a bit of an unnecessary purchase, but it is what it is. So if you'd followed when we originally bought this car, judging by the guy's Facebook marketplace like posts and stuff, he'd said the car had died on the highway, and I knew from his post the timing belt was well overdue. So I thought either A, I need an engine and a timing belt, or B, the pump failed. So I picked up an engine on the Friday, not knowing if we were even going to buy the car, and then ended up getting it, but ended up needing a turbo. So I took the turbo off of that engine. Unknown mileage, unknown history, just hoping for the best, and it's done awesome. It's been stage 2 tuned for quite a while in here now. So it's not a terrible idea to put a new turbo on it. Xman Turbos kind of presented this opportunity to try out a CR170 hybrid, along with the piping and stuff required, the 4-bar map because of the extra boost, and then obviously Tunezilla will be going to a stage 3 tune now. So we'll go over what this is exactly here on his website. But I just thought I'd also mention, we also got some other goodies from Xman Turbos. Got 2 GTB turbos, bigger turbos for a V10 TDI that I have with 0 miles on. So a nice low mileage or no mileage TDI, V10 TDI. May as well put bigger turbos on it. And at the same time, cams are an issue, so I may as well put bigger cams in there. And I don't know from the factory if they came with nitride lifters, but if you work on any of these PDs, you know nitride lifters are what need to be in it. I got these just in case. Big turbos, bigger cam for 0 mile V10 TDI. So we're gonna tear that all apart here shortly. But right now, let's go over the CJAA stuff. Okay, so on Xman Turbo's website, they've got 2 options. 2-liter TDI CR140, which would be the CJAA. So we've got the 52 millimeter billet CR170 hybrid that I've got up right now. And then we've got the 2-liter TDI CR140 CJAA 52 millimeter billet CR170 100% bolt-on hybrid. So let's go over the differences. So first off, I've got this first one here because it's 100 pounds cheaper, but you do require the CR170 intake. Then the boost dampener, we don't necessarily need it, so it brings it up to about 700. The issue with this is, if you notice, the EGR on our CJAAs are right here. And the other issue is the low pressure EGR gets fed into right here. When we go to the 100% bolt-on kit, you can see the EGR is in the right spot. The 3 bolts here to mount the low pressure EGR inlet is there as well. So this 100% bolt-on is a touch more expensive. It's also on sale for, they're pretty close. The 100% bolt-on, if you are staying emissions intact, which with Tunezilla you can, you're going to need this. If you go to this style here, there's probably a way to get your high pressure EGR into your intake somehow, but the low pressure EGR isn't going to work. So I don't know if Tunezilla can make that emissions intact this way. So just keep that in mind. This is the one I have here. It is cheaper. Talk about here, it needs to be EGR deleted. You need that CR170 intake pipe and elbow, which I'll show here in a minute. And the other issue is it requires an EGD sensor spacer. So we'll talk about that as well. So then it works well with usual stage 3 tune. So that's the 2 turbos. Okay, so coming over to the tuning side, so we're gonna use Tunezilla. So the stock horsepower is 140 horse. It's been stage 2 tuned, and if you're stock turbo, I would just recommend go straight to the stage 2 tune with the DSG tuning. I would only get the 0.5 if you don't want a DSG tune, but otherwise stage 2 tune, just jump straight to it. So 175 horsepower, 308 foot-pounds torque. You notice when you go to the stage 3, there's not a huge jump in power, but if you do notice, that's wheel horsepower compared to what I'm going to assume is crank horsepower. So there should be a bit of a jump in power, and I'm hoping it kind of holds on to the horsepower up here a bit better. You notice that the diesel engines are nice and torquey down low, but high speed, there's not a whole lot there to it. So I'm hoping it makes the horsepower band a little bit nicer. When you go to stage 3, we've got a few things we need. So we're going to need our spoolie boy, which is a CR170 turbo, significant boost in horsepower and torque. So the fueling, so we need the 4-bar map. And then the nice part too is the stage 2 and stage 3 DSG tunes don't need to be changed. And then yeah, so DSG tune, that's normal. CR170 is required. 4-bar maps required, and downpipe upgrade. We are having to do that, but you can have emissions intact. So we go down to these drop downs, click on everything you need. If you're doing the downpipe, you need to do the remove the DPF, EGR, and intake swirl flaps. So that should be it for the tuning side. Okay, so as always, I've got the affiliate link in the description for Tunezilla, so that'll be 10% off of your purchase, and obviously it works on stage 3 tunes as well, so you'll get your 10% off and also a little bit of kickback to me. Xman turbos, I don't have an affiliate link for that, but they did provide a discounted turbo for this video. So without companies like Tunezilla and Xman turbos, I wouldn't be making fun videos, not just repair videos. So I want to thank Xman turbos for this opportunity. And yeah, if you need a turbo, you can support somebody support a company that supports me making these videos. So right now we're going to get this turbo ready to go, and you might have a question, why would we get a CR170 versus not just jumping straight to a GTB or a GTD turbo? And my reasoning is bolt-on simplicity. So the downpipe factory works. Inlet comes with piping that works, and outlet piping that works. Everything is good to go. The only thing that we're going to need to modify is our EGT spacer, which I'm hoping I can make one. So I'm going to slap it on this afternoon. We're going to get the stage 3 tune from Tunezilla from Instant Tune. There's going to be no logging. It's just going to be quickly slam the new tune on, slam the turbo on, and then it'll be good to get groceries tonight. If you go to GTB, GTD turbos, stuff like that, it's obviously everything has to be custom, tune has to be custom, and it's not simple. So after this V10 video with the 0 mile V10, I plan on doing a ALH versus common rail series, kind of set a certain budget and then see who can make the most horsepower out of the two engines. Okay, so up first, the biggest issue that I'm going to have here is my EGT spacer, because I don't have one. ID Parts sells it. It's $8, $9 US. If you're Canadian, you're gonna know my shipping woes. The $8 spacer is going to cost $35 US to get here. So that's like $50 Canadian, $60. I don't know. It's not great. So I'm going to try and make a spacer out of a spare EGT probe. So my plan is I'm going to get the grinder. I'm going to cut it here, cut it on this side. So then it's just this little piece here. And then basically I'm hoping I can just punch whatever is in here out of it, slip this piece onto my existing EGT, and then it's just going to be extra thick, because the issue is this hole is too deep and the nut for your EGT space or your EGT probe bottoms out before this gets tight in that hole. So quick and simple. Hopefully this works. Okay, so here is my spacer made up. So it actually wasn't terrible. Drill it out. I used a 9/32 drill bit, and then just took a die grinder, cleaned up the excess. Seems to work pretty good. So the issue with it, so I'm just using a pre-DPF EGT sensor because that's what I've got handy. The issue, so we've got this is tight, the nut's tight, but this is loose, so it's not going to seal up to exhaust pressure. So the spacer, what it's going to do is get the probe bottomed out first. Another option that I thought about after I made this would be shove a little rag inside of there and do some precision grinding. So the idea of, well, at least with the spacer, what you do, you'll slip that on there like that. And now it's going to bottom out sooner. So if you want to grind it, you could put a little bit of, put a rag in there and just kind of take a little bit of this tapered edge off. Make this all flat. It doesn't need much by the how it feels. But with the spacer on there, like that, and then you can tighten it down. And then the probe will be tight, should be sealed up as long as you don't mar up the surfaces too much on your homemade spacer. And then we should be set. So you know you live in a Rust Belt province when your false firewall rots out. So I've never done a topside turbo, so we're gonna give it a try. So normally when I've done turbos before, we had stuff that needed to not be there. So I worked out underneath, pull the drive shaft, turbo falls down out the bottom nicely. But with this setup, the downpipe, I can just pull it over. The Profi Diesel downpipe, I'm not a huge fan of the clamps, so I don't want to touch any of the clamps. So I'm hoping just get the O2 sensor, pull everything this way. And then as far as like all the wiring, all this charge pipe stuff, flop it over, get it out of the way, and then basically pull the turbo out of this gap in here. So it really shouldn't be too bad, I don't think. I just had the charge pipe and stuff off underneath, so I don't think it'll be stuck on because I just did the dual mass flywheel. Okay, so the top side's looking pretty good here now. All the air piping is off, exhaust is just kind of hanging out there. The oil drain line, it came apart nicely. So as I've said in those other videos, make sure you don't twist the line off or else it's a pain to replace. So we're pretty well ready to go underneath, I guess. So I got to do the oil drain line, got to do that mount, like the oil drain line and mount are all kind of built in on these. And then basically we're ready to start unbolting and see how this wiggles out. I'm not sure. I've never done the top side, like I said, so I'm not sure how it's going to fit out of there, but we'll figure it out. So one thing I did notice on this not 100% bolt-on kit is we're losing the CCV heater, or PCV, whatever you want to call it, the crankcase ventilation. So that would be this pipe, feeds it into the inlet of the turbo. And stock, we've got this little plug here, which is a heater to make sure any condensation doesn't freeze in there before it gets sucked into the turbo. The CR170 kit here, it's just a straight shot in. So on the like ALHs and BEWs, when you went to PD150 turbo intakes, there was similar setup. So I don't know if it doesn't get as cold over in Europe or what, but that's just a straight shot. So it's a big enough hole. I'm hoping it doesn't freeze up, but I guess I guess we'll see. So usually if that freezes up, your crankcase ventilation has nowhere to go, and you usually blow out a rear main or your turbo seal. So okay, so the turbo is out and it came out the bottom. So I don't know. I did not do any research on how to pull this out the top side. I just assumed you'd have lots of room just to come up. With the actuator on, it seems like the hot side was hitting valve cover and the true firewall, and I just couldn't get it to clear. I tried a few different ways, but obviously I didn't do any research on it. Yeah, the frustration kind of popped up, so I just thought I would take it back out the bottom the way I know how to do it. So it's on the ground, and I had to obviously take the downpipe out, so it's going to take a few tries to get this back in where it needs to be. Questions on what a Profi Diesel budget downpipe looks like after a Canadian winter. The stainless itself doesn't look terrible. They're obviously just mild steel clamps. But yeah, all the welds look good. Same thing, I assume that's maybe 409 stainless. But everything else looks good. These are my clamps that are still in good shape. So I guess we'll get the stock turbo on the bench and we'll look at the differences, and then we'll get the new turbo in there. So looking at them at the bench, like runner size, exhaust size, all that, it does not look much different at all. You can tell the cold side It's a little bit bigger. But yeah, all the piping stuff's all the same, so it really doesn't look a whole lot bigger, but it's kind of like the VNT 15s, the VNT 17s, and the VNT 1722s. They physically don't look a whole lot different on the bench, but performance-wise, they're a bit different. So another issue I noticed is our exhaust heat shield that would sit there isn't going to transfer over to this one either, so I'm just going to pull these studs. They're no good there anyways. And I need to transfer over the pressure line adapter fitting into the new one here. And then we should be, well, I guess I'll swap that over as well for the EGT line and stuff. But other than that, we should be ready to go back together. So I guess you also have to swap over this heat shield. So you already got these two bolts out. You just got that last one, pop it over. And then my disgusting blocker plate that I doubled up. So that's on my 2025 list, is make some nice thick stainless blocker plates so I don't have to do stupid stuff like this. Okay, we're getting pretty well close to being able to roll out of here. So a few things yet. So we got tune we got to do yet. We've got the map we have to put in. So tune needs the map, map needs the tune. So you need to make sure if you're going to tune it, you need to install this. If you're not going to install this, just leave it with your stage 2. It's probably going to work fine. But yeah, if the tunes requires a 4-bar, make sure you're putting the 4-bar in, because it's not going to be happy. So we got that. We got drive shaft, exhaust to put back on, all that fun stuff. But yeah, the intake stuff's all back together pretty well. So one thing I'm just going to mention, when you put your EGT sensor back on, make sure you plug it into the 2-pin over here where your O2 sensor is. This harness here has a 2-pin. This one's got my plug in it, but it's got a 2-pin for the EGR, low pressure EGR system, so it will plug into there if you get mixed up. You're gonna get a P0544 code, so, or 554, 44544, I don't know. Either way, make sure it's plugged into the bundle of EGT plugins over here. So I'm going to get the tune started here, and then the map sensor is down here. It's not in a fun spot, but I've done it in the parking lot, so I'm pretty sure I can do it in the shop here, nice and easy. Okay, so now it's tuning time. So we're using the Tunezilla Pro-tool with the Pro device. So laptop should have a charger on it. Your car should also have a charger on it. So the issue that's going to happen is the cooling fans are going to kick on high for the entire tune flashing process. So you can throw a charger on it, but if you're like me, I've only got a small charger here. So what I usually do, if it's in the shop, in the air getting worked on, you can unplug the fan wiring. It's down in the bottom driver's side corner. Unplug it, fans won't run, and then that 6-amp charger should be lots. This car's got 0.5 and a stage 2 tune on it, so now we have to hit add new ECU tune. So it'll bring us to Tunezilla. We're going to switch to a stage 3. Oh. And then you have to make sure, so it's already got all those selected that you need, and then hit continue. Just like that, a couple minutes and we're in business. So I got it selected, so we can just hit flash selected file. Probably have to do a key dance here in a second, and then it'll start flashing. Okay, so looking at this map sensor, it's way down in there. It's unplugged, if you can see it right about there. I don't remember these AC lines being so tight in there, and I'm having a hard time fitting in. So I'm just going to either take the boost pipe out of the way or down a little bit to be able to get in there. So it'll be the bolt up here, should be some block mounts underneath there, and then where it goes to the intercooler. So I'm just gonna unbolt that, hang it down, and change out that sensor. Okay, so we got it out of there. So we've got the one coming in from the serpentine belt, one's up by the AC compressor in a bit of a pain in the ass spot. Both of them are out, so now we can get this map sensor out of here. So with all that road grime and oil and dirt in there, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it in body anyways. So We'll get the T20, we'll pop that out, clean some of the dirty oil and condensation out of here, and slam her back in. Okay, so we're back together. So now it's time to prime the turbo. There's a few different ways. I'm sure everybody's seen the videos where you stick your hands inside and hold onto the turbine wheel while somebody else cranks it for you. I like all my fingers, so I like just unplugging the injectors, go crank it for 30 seconds or so, check for oil leaks, make sure there's no leaks from the pressure line specifically, and then plug injectors back in, start it up. I've always gotten into the habit of doing it with the air intake off, just in the off chance that something goes wrong with the turbo and it decides to pump the oil pan into the intake and run away. A lot quicker just to go like this rather than try and get the air box off and all that. So not that I think that's going to be an issue, but it's also a great time to do an oil change if you've got oil, but I don't. So that'll be tomorrow's job. That should be good. Okay, injectors are all plugged in. That sounds pretty cool. So we'll get the intake back on, take it out for a drive, do some logging and see what it looks like, and then we'll do a comparison. So last night before I brought the car in, I did some 0 to 100 and 50 to 120 rolls with the draggy. So we'll do some comparisons to see how this sounds. As always, using your laptop whenever you need it, of course it's gonna run an update. So we're gonna hang on to Morton's here for a little bit until this thing's happy. So the little bit of driving I've done, I definitely think you can hear the turbo whistle a little bit more. It's 2.5 inch downpipe back to the factory muffler, so it's not loud, but you can just hear the whistle more. But yeah, nothing too obnoxious, I would say. As far as the tune and stuff, it's dark out. I can't see if there's any soot or anything like that, and I haven't been on it too hard yet, so I want to make sure we're not over boosting like crazy. So once the laptop's good to go, we will carry on. Okay, so I was seeing, while driving, just looking over, I was seeing over boosting a little bit. I was seeing about 3,000 millibars, so it should only be 2,900, I believe. I wasn't really graphing it, just quick looks at it. So I'm gonna try the turbocharger boost control solenoid adaptation. Okay, so all it does is it revs the car up automatically a little bit, and then you can just watch the percentage go up and down. It just cycles it up and down a few times, and then it just sees what the sensor sees. So probably a good idea whenever you change the turbo to do that either way. So we're gonna go down, go back, and then we're gonna go and drive around again. Okay, so I've done a couple quick little pulls. So it's pretty cold out, it's -12, roads are kind of icy. But yeah, boost pressure isn't anything to be concerned about. It's pretty well spot on, specified in actual. It does a little spike up and then levels out. EGTs are definitely getting quite a bit warmer than before. I was seeing over 900 on a good pull, so she's definitely getting toasty. But yeah, we're gonna do a couple pulls with the draggy to kind of compare the before and after. So I'm not even gonna bother with the 0 to 100. It's just gonna roast the tires off. So we're gonna do that 50 to 120 roll.
60, 100, 60, 100, 60,
Okay, so we're back to the driveway. So it's a good second quicker in that 50 to 120. If had better tires other than winter tires and the road wasn't slick, I think that would be even better yet. So with the stage 2 tune, I had no issues with traction from the 50 to 120, and I tried it multiple times with the stage 3, and would always, you'd see that the speedometer spike there, and it didn't matter what I would do, I could not get it to get traction until like that 60 or so. So pretty significant difference, and I think that time would be even better yet in the summertime. You get a little bit bigger tire on here, but that's just how the front wheel drive kind of is. So, and even the lower end, like I didn't think you'd notice it as much, but there is a pretty significant difference. The one thing I'm a little concerned about is EGTs. So it is -12 out right now, and I could get EGTs up into the low 900s. Here in Ontario, it's pretty flat. There's not much for hills, so I don't think I'm going to have an issue with that. But I think if you're in mountains and stuff, you might see the EGT starting to climb and raise. The Tunezilla will start cutting fuel. We've already kind of went over that when I did the Tunezilla versus the MR tuning videos. So I don't think we're going to have an issue getting too hot, but it's yeah, just something to kind of keep in mind that the EGTs will start climbing if you can get a continuous load on it. When I was seeing those low 900s, it was going from 0 to a pretty good clip, like faster than you'd normal drive. So I don't think there's too big of a concern on reasonable driving. So all in all, great modification. I think my wife will really like this. She liked my 180 horse ALH, so I think this probably is quicker than that, and I think she'll definitely enjoy it now. Okay, so when this truck pulls in there, just do a little pull.
I thought you said a big pull.
Don't speed. I know how you drive, but don't speed aggressively.
All right.
See if you notice a difference.
Yep.
So you're the expert, you drive this car every day. Is there a difference?
Yeah, like it's going a lot quicker. Yeah, it's pretty speedy. Did not need that.
Okay, so we are the next day here now. So when I said you should double check your work, you should definitely double check it thoroughly and not just quickly look at it and say, oh, it's all good. Because when I said I wanted to change the oil, but I didn't have oil, it helped me make that decision itself. Grab the... There is oil all the way down the car. So I thought the drain was probably leaking because I reused the drain gasket, but it is the fitting that goes into the top of the turbo. The copper crush washer doesn't appear like it's crushing very well, so I had to reuse it from the old turbo. Kind of is what it is. So I got to get this line off, the high pressure feed line off, and see what's going on there. Okay, so I got the fitting out. So it was snug, but not tight. So I think what had happened is I think I installed it snug by hand. I might have put my little ratchet on it, but with how the actuator is, you can't really get a 14 mil deep on it with an extension. So I don't think I tightened that down fully. So we're going to do that now. So you can fit a 14 mil deep or 14 mil shallow and then an extension, get away from the actuator. The other option is a 6 mil Allen down through the center. Okay, so I'm really gonna end the video here now. So there was definitely not much oil in there. Like, not much at all. So I think we went through a roundabout. I imagine all the oil would slosh over and the low oil pressure light would come on. But so take it from me. So before you go and spend half an hour and go drive it hard, maybe go around the block and double check that everything is still tight. So I'm gonna finish off the oil change here, and yeah, that's it for this thing. So thanks for watching.